All right. Once again, we are looking at the Ruy Lopez exchange variation. And this game is between our newest world championship contender, Sergey Karjakin, with the white pieces, versus Alexey Fire on Board Shirov with the black pieces. This game is from the um, fourth ACP World Rapid Cup and took place a few years ago in 2010. And this video should be compared and contrasted with my video where I covered the game Radjabov Shirov in the same line of the Ruy Lopez. So here's how Karyakin played the exchange variation. Okay, this game started out as you see e4 from Karyakin, e5 from Shirov, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, a6, bishop takes c6. This is known as the exchange variation. There is also another variation where it's called the Ruy Lopez exchange variation deferred, where the exchange takes place a few moves later. But here is our line that we're discussing right now. So bishop takes c6, d takes c6, and castle. And the e pawn cannot be taken. And if you have any questions about why, just look at the video that I made again with Radjabov with the white pieces against Shirov, and I explain in more detail why the pawn can't be taken, or not can't be taken, but why it shouldn't be taken early uh, in the game like that. In other words, I get into more detail in the line. So after castles, the e pawn is now legitimately, the black e pawn that is now legitimately under attack. And as I discussed before, there's several ways that black can choose to protect this e pawn. One of them is bishop g4. As you can see, there's a pin initiated here so that this knight cannot, or should not, capture the e pawn unless he wants to lose his queen. Another way again is f6. It's queen d6, queen f6 with the idea of castling queenside rapidly. Also, this bishop being out here, that's one of the ideas also to castle queenside. Bishop d6 has been seen, and also knight e7. And for tactical reasons, this does not get captured. One of the main lines, one of the main lines of this is just simply f6, strong pointing the e5 pawn. And we can see an obvious downside to this is that it takes a natural square from the knight. Also, it creates some further weakness around the light squares, the king. Nevertheless, this opening from the white perspective is not really seen that much at Grandmaster level. It's a good surprise weapon, and there are many ways black can defend adequately. But, however, he still has to be on point. And what I like from the white side about this opening, again, if you don't have a lot of time to prepare, it's good to play the exchange variation. That way you don't have to study 30 different lines of the Ruy Lopez. Because once you play bishop a4 after a6, I mean, you don't know what you're gonna get from black. You might get Marshall. Black might be setting up for a Marshall attack. Uh, Shigorin variation, Breyer variation, Smyslov variation. You just don't know what's gonna happen. So if you don't have time to prepare, you wanna keep your repertoire simple. Moving on. So h3 is played. H5 again, as I discussed in the Radjabov Shirov game. It is possible for black to play h5, where he sacrifices the e pawn after g4, bishop g6, and he still gets a good game. That line is a little bit more rare, and this line supersedes that one. And after h5, d3 is played for tactical reasons. That bishop cannot be captured at this point without white losing the game. Again, refer to the Radjabov Shirov game, that video. Queen f6. Now we're threatening to ruin the white pawn structure. Knight bd2. Knight e7. Rook e1. Again, the bishop cannot really be captured at this point. Rook e1 supports this pawn, but it creates space for the knight to be able to go here and to bolster up the king side. So what white is basically trying to do is prepare himself to capture this bishop. But right now he cannot do it. Knight g6. Still, he does not want to capture. I'll just give you a quick example. Like I keep telling you to refer to the other video, and you might be saying, hey, I don't want to refer to that video. So for instance, h takes, so after the bishop is captured, h takes g4, we see this open h file. So that's a big feature. And let's say that white tries to preserve this knight. So the only way to really try to preserve it is play knight h2. Then simply the threats begin. First bishop c5, and threatening queen takes here. There's really nothing to do after that but give a piece back. So for instance, you would have to try to interpose the other knight, do things like that. And then there's a real strong move here, which is bishop takes f2 check. The idea is simple. It's basically to pull this knight into a pin. So now the knight is pinned right to the queen, and then you just snap this knight off. This is still pinned, so this piece is going to be lost. That's just a quick example. So you have to really prepare. And remember this bishop being on c5. Why is that important? Because when we go back to the game, so after rook e1, knight g6, we understand one of the ideas behind white playing d4, it's not just to attack this pawn. It keeps the bishop from being able to play there. Shirov plays the best move, which is knight f4. In the Radjabov game, he had he wound up playing bishop e6 and losing a very important tempi in that game. And I very strongly suggested you watch these videos in tandem with each other. So knight g6, d4, knight f4. So now Karjakin decides that he can take the bishop. So h takes d4, h takes d4. And now, again, he cannot move that knight. He can't. Like, for instance, if he tries to play, say, knight h2, right? This takes place, knight takes g2, and if king there, very powerful move. Why the exchange sacrifice? It draws the king back from the defense of f2 over here. Queen comes in, check, king h1, g3, threatening mate right here. So now what do? If you play queen e2, then this happens. Now you use the pawn. So the queen is kind of like a blocker now. And after king h2, then you play this move, which is real strong. Because now this rook has to come. Rook comes here. And then the queen will drop on e2. And of course, if the king goes up here, then just simply mate. So back to the game, Karjakin played the move g3. In other words, he kept his knight here, but he had challenged this knight at the same time. So G takes F3, and Queen takes F3 was played. Again, it's real skeptical. Just understand that that knight cannot be captured. There's a look at the pawn here guarding the E2 square, so it's easy just to play that and it's mate. The computer even tells you mate. So Shirov gets the piece back. Queen takes F3. Now knight E6. Challenging this pawn. So this game is equal now. Right? Black has given back his bishop here, but he's exchanged some pieces off. The game is pretty equal. The only thing White has right now is his better pawn structure. D takes E5, Queen takes E5, and Karjakin opts for knight B3. Queen F5 is an interesting move, and maybe a little better. Of course, the idea being that if Queen takes, and he takes F5, and then you have this piece being lost. So that forces the Queen to do something. Maybe go to D6, and then even if Bishop C5, Knight F3, and the game is dynamically equal. So anyway, Knight B3 is played. It's a sensible move. Wants to get this bishop out into the game. G6. It's an interesting move. Shirov feels that perhaps his bishop is more effective on this diagonal than just simply developing him out to here. And it makes sense just thinking about it logically. I'm not saying one move is better than the other, but putting the bishop here seems like it puts the bishop on the effective diagonal. The D file is kept open. For instance, here, the bishop would be blocking the D file, so maybe the rooks wouldn't get the action, required. So after G6, Karjakin played bishop D2. And the idea is real obvious, is just to put the bishop here, and we can see the skewer of the queen and rook. C5. Remember, Shirov is a very dynamic player, so it's no problem for him to give up in exchange if he has to. So rook A D1, rook D8, king G2, and all of this is preparing as we see Shirov's rook on the H file. So this is preparing that defense / attack if necessary. The rooks are connected. There's bishop G7, C3. The idea is just to keep pieces off the D4 square. So now C4, taking space. Knight D4. Knight takes D4. C takes D4. And rook takes D4. So here, what happened, right? I made a couple of moves. I'll explain. So Karjakin has sacrificed a pawn so that he may win the exchange. And Shirov has been fire on board. Shirov has went in, for it. So it's not that Shirov missed it or anything like that. Shirov felt that he evaluated the position from his point of view and felt that, hey, I'm better. I'm good. After, if he takes the exchange. And Karjakin felt he's good. So the battle, revolves around these players' assessment of the position, which is equal. C5, great move. Great move, because we see Black's pawn structure is a little hampered there. So if White takes the exchange, that will straighten out the Black pawn structure. So for instance, bishop takes D4, C takes D4, And those pawns become very menacing for black. Excuse me, for white. There's 4-2 majority on the queen side. There's nothing to play with here, and it's hard to find good, good moves for white here. And I think black is probably a little better. I mean, what do you play here? For instance, let's say Queen A3 with the idea of keeping castling from happening. Queen E6 with this horrible threat of just is penetrating here. So there's definitely a reason why Karjakin played B3 and he just didn't take the exchange. So after B3, B5 takes, and we can see black's pawn structure is busted up, but he had his pieces control the center. His queen on E5, rook on D4, and these double pawns have a powerful sway in the center, along with this bishop and this rook on an open H file. So it's like black's better piece placement compensates for the static advantages that white holds in his pawn structure. So rook H1, contesting the H file, castles. Rook H4. Now it's white who might be thinking doubling up over here. Shirov plays Queen F6, offering a trade of queens at this point. So Queen E2, Queen C6. Notice he's opposing his queen with his opponent's king. That's a lot of times that's a good good strategy to pursue, especially in rapid games. So Queen E3, like a little blockade. And now right here, Shirov unfortunately missed a good continuation, which was simply bishop to F6, attacking this rook right here. However, he played the natural looking move, which is rook FD8. He has an advantage here, but I think bishop F6 was a bit stronger. So after rook DH1, I think the move here for Shirov is F5, and who knows, he might have been in a little time trouble. But I like F5, exploiting this whole pin. You got the rook here. You have this, and you have the queen. And I think white would have had to play a move like F3 or something. Unless he was just planning on sacrificing the pawn. Instead, sure, I'll play rook E8 with the same idea. He's trying to exploit the pin. Right? He has rook here. He's trying to exploit the pin. And black doesn't really want to take here. Excuse me, white doesn't want to take D4 to straighten these out. So he has the same idea, but it's not as powerful. So F3 is played. See, now the difference, you say, what's the difference between that and F5? F5, if F3 here, then this pawn is able to exchange here. And see, now you see a noticeable weakness. Now you could play a move like rook E8. Now you see the difference. Now you have this isolated pawn right here. In this variation, there's no F5 hasn't been played, so it's just like black has been shut down pretty much. Now, with that said, his best move probably is F5. Instead, Shirov played another reasonable looking move, which is Queen A4. Just attacking this pawn on A2 and harassing the king. Queen E2. And now Rook E D8. So now Shirov just goes right back to dominating the D file. So Shirov has played take more control of the game. So now Rook H7. So now we see Karjakin trying to counterattack, take over the H file. Queen A3, again looking like a reasonable move. Attacking. Notice a lot of Shirov's moves are just raw attacking moves. So now he's attacking the bishop. He's trying to force this now. Karjakin's not having it. He just simply plays Queen C2. Shirov plays Bishop F6. E5. There's a tricky sacrifice here. So now you got Bishop takes E5. Now Karjakin takes. Bishop takes D4. And Shirov plays Rook takes D4. Now C takes D4 is possible. However, White can play Queen takes C4 now. And the game is probably still even. So Shirov protects the C pawn. Plays Rook D4. And I'm sure in some lines he's hoping to be able to play that eventually. So Queen E2 is played. Karjakin attacks this bishop. Now, here, maybe the appropriate move right here is just simply Queen A4. Shirov played Queen C3. And this is a one-move blunder. And can you see why? And can you see why I suggested Queen A4 as your antidote? If you want to pause the computer, pause the computer. If you want to pause the video and figure out what Karjakin did to win the game, be my guest. But Karjakin played Rook H8, and the game is over. Let's look at why. If Bishop takes H8, right? Then simply Queen E8 check, King G7, and you heard it, mate. And if King G7, then the bishop is captured. And after F6, then simply the rook from the first rank comes and conducts the honors. So that was basically a one-move blunder by Shirov, is neglecting his back rank. Now go figure, 2700 Grandmaster, 2700 world-class level Grandmaster neglecting the back rank. Say it ain't so. That's why instead of Queen E2, Queen A4 is better. Why? Notice, see the protection of that square now? Now this bishop can do what it wants, just to give you the clarity of it. Now that would be a losing move because now it doesn't work. But obviously Shirov overlooked that, missed that, and he figured he had this threat also of playing Rook D2. So that's a hard move to, it's a rapid game, and that's a hard move to not to play. It looks like, you just about to win this game. I mean, after Queen C3, this move is threatened, and if Queen takes E5 here, Rook D2 check wins. Queen is hanging. So, like I said, we can see exactly why Shirov did Queen C3. It looks fantastic. But however, Karjakin had one more ace up the sleeve, and he just got him with that. I mean, that must have been real frustrating. I could see Shirov just looking in the sky right now. Just holding his head, in disbelief. But anyway, Shirov resigned after that due to the weakness on the back rank mate. So I hope you enjoyed that game as much as I did. Please like and subscribe, comment. I like hearing from you guys what you think. Suggestions are definitely welcome. Like if you want me to focus on certain players more, certain openings, anything. It's all up for grabs. I like chess in general, so I mean I'm all over the place. I'll be studying like looking at games from the Budapest Gambit or games from the 1800s or whatever. It doesn't matter. So anyway, any questions or comments, you know where to put them, and talk to you next time.